You sit? Yep. Good boy. Good job. Today, Ninja and I practice building duration, lessening any frustration that he might be experiencing, along with continuing our loose leash etiquette outside, and working on our social impulse control. Now, I will admit the social impulse control was kind of an accident. That was not my intended focus during our session today, but we ended up having an outdoor exam performed as we were making our loops around our building outside today. So we actually got some good practice with impulse control around social distractions while we were moving, rather than staying in a down. Ninja, here. Yep, good boy, buddy. Very good. Right here. The trick when you're working with social distractions while you're in motion with him, so if you're on a walk and he sees a familiar face or someone that he would like to become familiar with, the trick is to vary up how you reinforce him, because reinforcing from the hand is a really quick way to reward a specific behavior, but it's also a really quick way for him to shift his focus right back to the distraction. So what I usually recommend when you're in motion with your dog, you're working outside, you're being active with him, and then a distraction introduces itself, is go ahead and deliver your reinforcement on the ground so that he has to go seek it. That takes a little bit longer for him to retrieve it. Yep. And then as you can see, he's more likely to check back in with me than he is to check back in with whatever the distraction was, because he knows where that treat came from. It's a familiar flavor, it's a familiar sight and smell, and he knows that usually it comes from the handler, and so he's more likely to check back in with you as the handler than he is if you deliver that cookie straight from your hand and then he's got nothing else to think about except, oh wait, there was somebody over there that I might want to say hi to. Okay, so when you're in motion, delivery on the floor can be a great way to prompt him to stay focused on moving away, yep, instead of pulling towards the distraction, as well as prompting him to check back in with you. Okay. Now, as far as duration and frustration, what I did today was I introduced rewarding off the body. This looks a little bit different from the treat toss that I just showed you though. I actually have most of his kibble still in the bag and it's sitting on this table. This does two things. One, it gives him something else to focus on besides where my hands are at any given point, where my treat pouch is at any given point, and what I may or may not be asking him to do at any given point. He's got this other potential reward area over here on the table, and you can use it in several different ways. The way that I kind of introduced it today is that if he showed any interest in that kibble that was on the table, I marked for that and delivered reinforcement from my treat pouch as a reminder that, hey, I have good things. If I asked him to perform something, yep, good boy, and he did it successfully, he got a treat from the table. So that tells him that there are opportunities for reinforcement wherever he is in the room, wherever I am in the room, and it also helped him understand that even if I move away from him after marking for something, he can stay put with the understanding that I will bring a reward to him. Okay? So if it'll look something like this, say if you're working on obedience in the house. Let's go, bud. Let's go. Are you tired? Has it been a long day? Here. Yep, sit. Yep. I'm going to grab a cookie from the back and reward him in his location. So I move to him as he maintains that position. Down. Oh, so smooth. Yep, good boy. Oh, that was so close. Down. Yep. Good job. Very good. Another benefit of having treats off of your body is that it allows you to introduce what are called secondary reinforcers. So this kibble for the longest time now has been his primary reinforcer for good behavior. It's what he wants most because he's on a diet. It's what most motivates him to perform. And so it's a very reliable way to learn, to teach him new things. Once he's got behaviors down pat, like his sit is really solid now, his shakes are really solid, his down is getting really solid, good work there. You can start to introduce a secondary reinforcer. So you're gonna notice that I'm petting him a lot here before I actually deliver a cookie. That physical affection, that hands-on petting, that is a secondary reinforcer that is then followed by the primary reinforcer. And when you pair reinforcers together like this, you're gonna be able to, over time, fade the primary reinforcer out. So we're gonna start relying less on food and more on physical affection for those super familiar, solid behaviors that he already knows really well. Verbal praise is another secondary reinforcer. So you might hear me occasionally mark and then give him verbal praise before I step away to grab a cookie and deliver it to him. Yep, good job, buddy. You're doing great. And you'll also notice he's a lot less barky today than he was a couple weeks ago. That's because he's not really sure where I'm going to move next, and that slight uncertainty about what exactly he needs to do and what I'm going to do in response is making him stop that frustration and think about the way to earn more rewards, whether it's from my hip, from the bag, or just from physical affection. Okay? So we're getting into some really advanced skills here. I would recommend that when you're working on obedience in the house, you start having treats off the body whenever you can. That will limit frustration. It'll help you practice fading food behaviors for those behaviors, food reinforcement for those behaviors that he really knows and has really solid. And you can only lean on that food reinforcement during the super challenging periods when you're teaching him something new or when you're working in a new space where distractions are going to be a little more distracting. Okay? Let me know if you have questions about these newer skills or about how to work through impulse control when you're in motion together. And I look forward to seeing what other progress he makes next week.